A very good morning, Level 7A, and welcome back to our online learning program. How are you doing today? Good. I'm doing good too, thank you. Have you done your homework and your classwork? Alright, so if you have done them, please make sure that you send them to me so I can look at them, okay? Thank you. Alright, what day are we on today? That's right, today we're on Wednesday, September 30th. Alright, so month of September is almost over, yeah? So starting from tomorrow, we're going to be the 1st of October. Alright, so for session 1 today, we're going to be looking at blueprint 2. For today's lesson, we're going to be looking at grammar. You're going to go, oh teacher, grammar again. Today, we're looking at active and passive voice. Okay, but before we go there, let's do a quick lesson previous review on what we've done so far. Do you remember what we've done so far in our blueprint 2? That's right, so in our blueprint 2, we did let's with apostrophe and let's without apostrophe. And we distinguished the difference between the two let's. And also the the explanation along with what? Along with example sentences as well, right? Do you remember doing that, right? So what is let's with apostrophe? So the word let's with apostrophe is a contraction of let us or let's do something. It is close to meaning we should or we should do something, okay? So for example, let's go fishing or let's have a party. Let's have a party if mom gets us, okay? Life loves to be taken by the label and told, I'm with your kid, let's go. Alright, so these are the words and phrases or sentences with let's apostrophe. What about let's without apostrophe? So the let's without apostrophe is the third person singular form of the verb let, meaning to allow or to permit to do something, right? So she lets the dog out every morning. Let's with apostrophe, okay? So let us consider all the facts. Let's is a form of verb. Let means to permit, okay? So to give permission or to permit or to allow a person to do something. Okay, so it's a third person singular, adds the letter S in the present tense. For example, mom lets their children play video games all day and all night. It's unhealthy. Number 2, the restaurant lets customers choose from a variety of fresh mushrooms. Okay, so these are the let's without apostrophe. Now, I'm not going to go too far because otherwise we're going to be late for our today's class, okay? So as I said before, for today's class, we're going to be looking at grammar, active and passive voice. Now, what is active voice? Right, so an active voice is a noun. It's a form or set of forms of a verb in which the subject is typically the person or thing performing the action and which can take a direct object. Okay, for example, she loved him as opposed to the passive form he was loved. Okay, so this is the active voice. Now, how do we form an active voice? The structural formula for active voice. So we need a subject plus verb plus an object. What's a subject? I, he, she, it, okay, or they, verb, and then follows by object. Like for example, we had before here, she loved him, okay, or, she loved him, okay. So she is a subject, loved is a verb, and him is an object, okay. Right, so that is the structural formula for active voice. Should be easy because most of them you already done them in the previous lessons before. Okay. Now, what is here are the example of active voice. The cashier counted the money. The dog chased the squirrel. All three sentences are they all have basic active voice constructions. Okay. So we have the cashier counted the money. The dog chased the squirrel, okay, and the dog chased the squirrel. All right, so all two sentences, have an active basic voice, basic active voice, okay. So it's a subject, a verb, and an object. So the subject, monkey performs the action described by adore. So the monkey was adored by people. That is another example as well, okay? So, these are the examples of an active voice. Right. Okay, so the two sentences above have the basic active voice. Now let's have a look at passive voice. What is passive voice? Do you know? What is passive voice? Well, passive voice conveys the same message as an active voice, but it does it in an indirect way. In the passive voice, the subject becomes passive and the object gets the prominence. Like in the above passive sentences, the subject me is being acted upon the object. Alright? So the example formula for passive voice, in this case, the object comes in front and the subject goes last. In the active voice, the subject comes in front and the object goes last. In the passive voice, the object comes in front and the subject goes last, followed by in the middle of verbs. Okay, so in the passive voice, we have object plus verb plus subject. Now, what are the examples of passive voice? In a passive sentence, the person or thing doing the action or the actor is usually preceded by the word by. Here's an example. For example, Anita was driven to the theater by Carla. Okay? Or nowadays, black kites are protected by law. Or the olives are stoned and crushed into this room by my son. Okay? So these three sentences are the passive voice, because the words after the sentence followed by the word by. Okay? So Anita was driven to the theater by Carla. Alright, so these are the example sentences of passive voice. Now, let's have a look at the example sentence with active and passive voice, the difference between them. Let's have a first look at active voice. Okay, active voice, there are 5 sentences. I ride a horse. I eat a pizza. He wrote a letter. She wore a suit. They called the police. Whereas in the passive voice, a horse is ridden by me. A pizza is eaten by me. A letter was written by him. A suit was worn by her. Okay, the police was called by them. So like we said before, in the active voice, we have the subject, the verb, and the object. In the passive voice, we have the object, then the verb and the subject. Okay? So don't confuse with the two. Now let's look at the first one. We have I ride a horse. A horse is ridden by me. So I is a subject, ride, verb, horse, object. Whereas in passive voice, we put the sub-object in front. A horse, ridden, a verb, and a subject is me. Okay? So these are the difference between the active voice and passive voice. Let's make sure that you ask questions if you don't understand the difference between the two. I think it is very easy for you, and you have done them before many times in your previous lessons. Okay? Alright. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask me at any time during our class. I know a lot of you never ask. Okay, that's all for session 1 for today's class. I'll see you in session 2 in just a moment. Goodbye everyone. Bye-bye.